Let's talk about the impacts and some of those risks, right? Like we're starting to get into it. Like we talk about malicious use. Like you. Oh, by the way, I should mention to folks. You folks have this white paper that's about to come out, which is we're gonna link into the comments section. But it's really cool because it really talks about the different stages of AI and then some of the impacts and things that we're concerned about with those different stages. So I'm looking at this table, and it said since 2020, some of the concerns around disruption to creative industries. That one, when I saw that, I was thinking, okay, if I'm trying to plan for like the future workforce, I'm like, okay, creativity, like that's not something that computer systems can do. But then all of a sudden you can go into Midjourney or you can go to any of these AI software and get something produced, and from a creative image standpoint. I don't know if you've seen some of these social media accounts where they have these like social influencers that are completely AI. Like it's crazy, like that one stood out for me. I don't know how you feel about the disruption of creative industries, but
I absolutely will. And I think Meta just recently announced they're going to make a bunch of avatars in the metaverse that are basically powered by AI to the likeness of like Paris Hilton and a few others that'll talk to you as if you're talking to the real person.
right.
And in China, there's a whole business of like AI generated influencers selling products. The creative the really difficult thing with AI is never quite sure what aspects it's going to learn next, because as they scale these models up, they gain capabilities, and often they're not even sure what capabilities they gain until after the fact.
Sure.
So, nobody, even in the AI industry, people, 5 years ago were saying, oh yeah, no, creativity, that's a human thing. It will be the last thing to go because computers are all very rational, and and then you realize, okay, no, actually creativity is, is easier than we think, or can be, brute force by machines. It's disruption of creative industries is a big one. I mean, they're a canary in the coal mine. Every industry is, there again, when you reach human levels of AI, that's the point where there's nothing left that, you and I can do that the machine can't do better, faster, cheaper. So maybe there'll be laws that stop machines from doing certain roles. But if anything, I don't feel too sorry for the creative industries, because if you enter a world where there is no more labor, and if we manage to redistribute the benefits of these systems and so nobody goes without what they need, then it's a world of you need to entertain yourself, and having a passion like art is actually a huge advantage over somebody whose job is far more mechanical, or building a tool, where now that's 100% the AI system, they'll do it. But yeah, all I'd say, it's they're being hit hard right now, but they're one of many to come. And then I guess the other impacts of the large models at this point. Definitely job displacement, definitely extensive misinformation, and there's still. So the first wave and the first batch of issues we saw included a lot of biased algorithms. So they trained their system on a bunch of old data, and surprise, it's biased towards certain genders and certain races, and so there was a lot of that issue, like trying to clean up the old data and also make sure that the techniques they were using were themselves not poorly designed. And so all these things scale up as as the capabilities scale up, and of course privacy is another one where big question mark. And then the question is then, when you get beyond current models, which maybe there'll be a few more stages of AI before we reach full AGI, or maybe AGI is the next thing. We don't know. Certainly AI systems that can be increasingly agentic in the real world, so systems that you can task with buying you something, or going out into the real world, acquiring resources, using resources, interacting with people in intelligent ways. That is among the next capabilities to come, and maybe that will end up being AGI. But when you get to the top layer of when you get to the full levels of AI systems, that is a major overhaul of human life, basically, in the sense of even if the systems are built safely, even if they only do things that we want and never malfunction and do things we don't want, which is a really hard problem to solve, by the way, technically, is even then, as I mentioned, your education system, what does a career mean if you're not getting paid anymore?
Sure.
You're not using it anymore. like all of these like really fundamental questions around like how do you organize society, how do you live a meaningful life, and then of course with that level of technology you can use AI systems to extend people's lives in terms of fighting off the diseases that cause aging and other various process. So and then you end up with problems like what happens if life extension beyond 150 or more, like what kind of societal I think there's just a lot of like all of our base assumptions, all of our moral frameworks, all of the like the laws we have are all based on the assumption of a roughly agricultural or industrial society. Once you reach human levels of AI and those systems get deployed, you are in another era. Basically, it's like going from like hunter-gatherer to agricultural, agricultural to industrial. It's a new, like it is just a radically new way of life, outlook.
And do you see that as a positive? Like you see it as a new positive era? Like how are you feeling? Like what's your own personal take on that? Like are you feeling optimistic about what that new era looks like then?
So this is actually what I wrote my book about, trying to figure out, okay, so if we, should we or should we not pursue AGI or human augmentation? And essentially, I came down to the conclusion that, the most important thing, if you look at the grand scheme of things, is the survival and flourishing of life, and then, obviously within that, hopefully Homo sapiens and all the other species we currently have. But there's a sense of like, no species is the end of evolution, and as Homo sapiens, we have plenty of flaws. We have all the, and so like, do we try to say no, we're the top of the totem pole, we're the best there ever could be, and so we're not going to build anything that's better than us, or do we accept that we're, one chapter of a long history of life? And I think there are a lot of worlds in which we live very happy, lives, but very few or almost none in which we remain the dominant form of intelligence. And there again, even if these tools are well built, they only do what we want and nothing that we don't want. The fact that we're going to need them to understand problems that we can't understand because they're too complicated and make decisions on our behalf, that already puts us in a state of like dependency.
Yes.
And so I think there's a chapter in my book called Human Leadership, which is like right now we are at the pinnacle of human leadership, whereas what we do impacts every other species more than what they do to themselves, pretty much. And we are very much in charge of creating the future. But once we create that future and create those systems that are smarter than us, or offspring that are smarter than us, we kind of have to make peace with the fact that as a species, you become secondary, kind of like animals are right now. Dogs and dolphins and all the rest live good lives, but they're not in charge. And I think that is the world we're headed into, unless you want to go like hardcore anti-AI and spend all of your time like augmenting human beings and fighting. Like it becomes like the scenarios in which we don't end up on top are not positive scenarios for the most part. So I guess that's all right. Hope that answers the question.